Hey there and welcome back to Best Practice TV. This is Talking Business and my good mate Louis Abdilla has dropped by from Content Security, and if you've been watching what we're doing here on Best Practice, he's one of our amazing sponsors of our new magazine, Certified. Stay tuned, we've got lots coming your way. We'll see you soon. We're bringing great people to you. They're talking leadership, they're talking strategy, they're talking innovation, they're talking creativity, they've got the big ideas. This is Talking Business. So tell me about Content Security today, like from then, how long's it been?
It's 17 years,
Wow.
So it was back in 2000 we started.
Yeah, right.
And look, back then it was a lot about cold calling and telemarketing and then building relationships with people in IT. And as the business started to evolve, as you do, you get an office. We got an office in the city, and I think that was a big step for us. And we start hiring engineers, security engineers and IT engineers. And then all of a sudden, you're selling product, but you're starting to build service around it as well. And I think that's where content security is really strong today, because obviously we provide a lot of security technologies, but it's really our services that's made content security here it is today.
What would be one question around your business that you would like some advice, some free advice on?
All right, so I guess what's important to understand, the people out there, is what do they need from security companies? Cybersecurity can be difficult, and it can be really hard to understand. And I'd love to hear from the general public that, do they understand it? Is it too difficult? Do they sort of have a grasp of what's going on? If yes, great, but if no, what do we need to do to really make it, so everyone can understand it almost as plain English, so they can understand how to protect themselves. So I think sometimes there's a lot of, jargon and words that people just don't really understand, and I think that's not a good thing. Our job at Content Security and security professionals is to make it so the everyday people can understand what's going on and how to protect themselves. Because at the end, that's what hackers are going for. They're looking for ordinary people, because they know that that's probably one of the easiest ways for them to try and...
Absolutely, 100%. So with talking now about content security in it as it is today, as a modern business today in 3 locations. I know you got 3 locations, but you do have a global reach. So with that, what are the things that are on your radar, around what's happening in the industry at the moment? What can you see on the horizon, from your perspective? So yeah, it's obviously a business called Content Security. That's what they do. But what can you see coming for them? The challenges for those guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting time we're in, just because of almost the internet. What have it's done? It's really globalized our world. Business is done online. Things are really fast-paced. Technology's fast-paced. Stories that you hear before, you'd have to watch the news, but now they're on instantly on Facebook or Twitter. So it's really connected. So what's important, to work around that is that your online business is quite important. Your reputation is very important. So a lot of businesses, they seem to act maybe when something's happened when it comes to cybersecurity. And more today, businesses understand that, hey, we really do need to pay more respect to ensuring we're investing in cybersecurity, so we're not that next name or that next brand that's out there in the media, because it's really damaging. The trust of your client. If they see that you could be the next brand that's the reputational damage or the data's lost, you can lose that pretty quickly. There was a very large organisation in the US, not long ago, that was breached, and the amount of customers and clients they just lost really quickly because of the way the information gets out, but they're not secure, they're not doing the right thing for their client base. People would just turn off pretty quickly. What
would you say, and you can give me this advice so they don't feel violated, for me personally as a CEO here at Best Practice, what would you say are my top 3 tips from a security perspective? Just me personally.
Yeah.
Put a pin on my iPhone. Yep. Yep.
So one thing I think it's important, you have to have that mindset
Yep.
that, you know, we live in a world where your data is important and people want it. So you almost have to have that paranoid attitude in what you do online. So you can't be carefree. You really have to be always thinking, you know, who's this email from? You know, am I, you know, doing the internet banking on a machine that's up to date with the antivirus? So, you know, I'm a very paranoid person by nature. Like my friends know me, right? But I always have been. So every time I may do like internet banking, one of the first things I'll do is just to check my antivirus is up to date before I do anything. And then I'll go into my banking. And then obviously then I've got my two-factor authentication code. But one thing is just don't be carefree when you're online. You have to have some sort of sense that, hey, this email, I don't know who it's come from. You know, I'm not going to click on it. I'm just going to delete it. There's no need to. So probably being just a bit of self-conscious is really important. Again, you know, making sure that your operating system, your antivirus is all up to date. Because, you know, I think the potential of being breached or hacked is very high once you have a vulnerability. Could be in Windows, could be in Adobe, you know, all these applications that you use day to day. If you keep them all up to date and patched, you're really mitigating the risk of being breached.
And that's something that I flog my guys on here. If your device, and ask your company what the policy is, but like our devices here at Best Practice, if the device is asking, like I've got updates to install, it's like, yes. So we're talking about being paranoid, not clicking on emails, just delete emails you don't know who it's from. If it's really important, they'll send it to you again, in theory, or they'll call you. Or they'll call you.
So emails always, you know, it's been one of the vector points for a very long time, right? They break into your network or your PC. And a lot of it, you know, if you look back in the early days, you know, in 2000, there was a very large virus called I Love You. I don't know if you guys remember that. But it was an email you got and the subject was I love you. And basically, you know, you click onto it, it was an executable which ran a script, which is a virus, and, you know, owned your machine. But it's all about trickery almost. Like, you know, emails are all about trickery. They're always trying to trick you to click on something. So what do you say? It's really like phishing attacks. You get an email and you got a hyperlink, right, to the web. And that's when all the bad stuff happens. So you get an email, and this is what people do. They click onto a link because, you know, it says something like, oh, you know, new promotion from Rebel Sport or whatever.
I've got $1 million in the bank account. It's got your name on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
They click onto it. So when you get to the web, and then that's when, you know, you become compromised because the Trojan will come from the web onto your PC. It's simple, right? It's happening all the time. And that's where the end user awareness needs to kick in. Like, there is technology to stop that, right? There's a lot of good products out there. You know, the Trend Micro, the Semantic, the Proofpoint, all these you know, vendors, but still there'll be one that will get through because they're not foolproof. And when one does get through, you're hoping that the end user is smart enough or savvy enough not to click onto it. So, yeah, how do you train your end users? There's a really good service called Wombat. It's not Australian. It's actually an American company. But it's end user awareness training. And what it does is it takes you through modules about, you know, training on a WebEx portal where it's talking about, you know, different attacks that come in, and one is phishing attacks right through email, and it tells you, you know, it gives you a bit of a class of what to do, what not to do, and then at the end of it, there's like a test. And, you know, we do that internally at Content, and there's a lot of organisations now that are doing this type of training. Like Wombat is one of the products, but it's starting to teach the end users that, hey, you know what, you got to become a bit more understanding of what's going on, because like I said before, all the technology, all the compliance, all the strategy you have, it always does resonate to the end user. And the hackers are always going to try and trick the end user or perform social engineering, right? And that's been around for a long time, and that won't go away ever. And then you have the targeted attacks, which is the next level up, and that's when people are really profiling individuals. So, you know, it could be a CEO of a company or CFO, and they're looking at their Facebook, they're looking at their Twitter, they're looking at their whatever information they can find socially, right, for social network, and then they do targeted attacks. So, you know, there could be a CEO that's, he loves his football, you know, loves Australia, right, in the soccer, and they're sending this guy an email about Australian football and how Australia just won against, who they play, Honduras yesterday. And here's a chance for you maybe to get a private experience with the team before they go to Russia. Click onto this link, right? And because they know that he's a fanatical person around soccer, they've already got him maybe thinking, oh, maybe I'll click onto this, right? That's just a very low level example of how you could target someone. They go much more sophisticated than that.
So, you know, with the content security stuff and cybersecurity stuff you guys are doing, professionally following current best practices, monitoring evolving practices, and monitoring next practices that are becoming best practices, if that makes sense, is absolutely critical. So with, you know, with an approach to say an organisation that's got, like, you know, 100, 150 people,
Yep.
average size. You know, if we talk about, you know, numbers of businesses that are bigger than that, there's lots, but there's not that many. So, you know, progressively as you get bigger, there's less and less of that size organisation. So a company that's got like 100 to 150 staff, what's the sort of approach that you would recommend that they take to have a look at this? Yeah,
sure. So the problem with cyber today is there's also a shortage of skills. And, you know, these organisations at that 100 to 150, they may have IT people, but they're not necessarily security, you know, people. And what's happening is that the attacks are becoming, you know, quite sophisticated. The hackers are very smart, right? The viruses are quite smart. So you almost need really specialised people to understand what's going on, to run the right technology. But it's not just technology. So it's technology is obviously very important. So you've got your antivirus, your firewalls, you know, all the security technologies out there, which is a lot today, which is also overwhelming for organisations at 100 to 150, because they're having a lot of companies come to them, right? You should have this, you should have this. They don't have the experts really to understand what's important. But technology is obviously important, and there's also the compliance bit and strategy. It's just like anything in business, you know, you need a really good security strategy when it comes to, you know, protecting your business. You have a framework in place. So when you start actually documenting, you know, process, procedure, that's really important, because if you don't have that in place, it's really hard to build a good cybersecurity strategy. And then you also have end user awareness, because you could have all the technology, you could have all the compliance and security strategy in place too. You're still going to have end users click onto things and maybe do the wrong thing, right? And the technology sometimes won't catch it, because it's, you know, it may be a phishing attack where the end user will click onto a link, they'll go to a website, and there you go, right? You get compromised pretty quickly. Yes, technology sometimes comes out and stops something. Problem is, I always think the human mind's smarter than any computer. So the human keeps finding ways around things, right? So there was this technology, I don't know if you guys, it's called FireEye. It's, you know, it came out, it's massive, about 4 or 5 years ago, right? And the technology, it's about sandboxing. So what happened, fire will come into the sandbox, and it would open up in the sandbox and check to see if it was a virus, right, before it went into the network. So it was almost like a test bed. Don't let any traffic in, test it on the outside, then let it through if it was cool. So it was working, it was great, right? This is unbelievable technology. So one hacker one day decides, I'm gonna write a virus, that it's not gonna start for 6 months later. It's gonna be dormant. So it got into the box. Oh, this is fine, this file, there's nothing wrong with it. Let it through, 6 months later the virus kicks in. So bypass the technology. So for me, there's always ways, right? The human mind is so freaking smart. The hackers, they all work together too. It's a community, so that they find ways to break into stuff. They share it, they teach each other. It's actually an underground community. Mate, do you think Westpac Bank, NAB and CommBank are all working together to help each other? They're not, because they're all being driven by the dollar and by the share market. You know, you're starting to get some, obviously, government agencies work together, share information. That is critical to us defeating the criminals, because they're sharing information, we're not. they're getting better, we're not, right? There's a big problem. And then people start talking about how artificial intelligence, right, and AI is gonna help kill this. What happens if the bad guys use the AI for them, right? And this is the thing. This is the thing that people don't understand. Whenever there's a good concept that comes out, you could always reverse it. The biggest issue is that having someone at that business where they can, you know, really help the business understand security and the right technology to purchase, you know, to be able to train the end users, have the business follow a security strategy from the CEO to CFO, you know, right down to finance, right across the business. They struggle because they don't have the people within the business to help them on that journey.
I've got a question, you know, this is from my perspective. Broadly speaking, if a business was to run on all cloud systems versus not cloud systems, so like no servers and all that sort of stuff, you know, hardware-wise, so they're trying to have a minimalist hardware approach to how they're operating. Is that, broadly speaking, is that safer, would you say?
There's definitely merit with running cloud systems. You know, you're looking at cloud, obviously operations, which have been built well. There's been compliance built into it with a framework. There's security that's built into the cloud. You know, the cloud is always being updated with the right versions. All the software is up to date. You know, all these things is how you defend against the cyber attacks. It's really important. When you're talking about maybe the smaller business in the town, from the, you know, the 20 users, you know, it could be up to a couple of hundred users. All that efficiency from an organisation doing that for you and keeping that cloud secure by all the updating and all the tweaking is great, because those organisations that are 20 users, 50, if they were running it on premises, they wouldn't be able to do it. They don't do it. So they actually become very vulnerable because of all the vulnerabilities, right? And they can be, you know, compromised. But then when you start talking to probably about the larger end of town, they may look at more of a hybrid solution. So some things are in the cloud, but some things are on premises. A lot of cloud systems, they'll give you that, hey, put your data up here and you know, run it off us and whatever. But you know, if something happens, it's not our problem.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's still your data, and you have to make sure it's secure. So you know, with AWS, there are security controls you can put on that are, you know, obviously enabled for AWS. I'm sure Azure will be the same, right? And other cloud systems. But others, you know, you may have some sort of firewalling or encryption, or you know, identity management, like things like that, where you're going to have to do yourself if you want to be, you know, showing that you're ultra secure, right? So when we're dealing with the larger end of town, they will use perhaps AWS, and they may use it just for stuff that they're not too worried about, right? They'll put it up there because they know it, spin it up quick. Don't have to buy the freaking server, don't have to maintain it and all that. It just, but sometimes they may put things up there, right? And if they do, they will make sure that, you know, there's technology in it that they've put in themselves, or they need someone like us to put in, and secure it, because there's no guarantees from the cloud provider. If something happens, it's their responsibility. No, I think most 99% of the time they're going to say, hey, it's not our problem, it's yours.
You're just renting space.
Yeah,
like it's literally like a commercial office. Do whatever you want inside of it. If you trip over and hurt yourself, it's not our fault.
Correct.
You put the stuff in there.
You know, a lot of our penetration testing we do it, and it's just vulnerability after vulnerability because they're not patching. And when they do patch, you know, they're trying to patch. Still, it's a hard thing to do, because you have machines that don't get the patch for whatever reason, right? Not online, doesn't get the patch, doesn't suck it in, whatever. So then after the patch, you're supposed to scan. So you do like a Nessus scan, Qualys, Rapid 7, something like that, and then you check again to see if the machine's still vulnerable. Because you know, 9 out of 10 times you may find out, this machine out of 20 still didn't get that patch. Let's get it on. So when you go back to it and you do it again, it takes one machine, right? And you're stuffed. So that's why it gets hard when it's on premises. It's just an ongoing battle of, you know, patching, scanning, configuration too. That's another big problem. So your firewalls, your servers, your Active Directory, a lot of it's misconfigured. So bad practice. It's a big way for hackers to get in. So depends on the business, but for sure, I believe that for small business, cloud is quite a good thing.
So can your team could your team come in and, so, you know, or someone from your team come in from a team, say 50 to 100, they've got some on-premise stuff that they're doing. Could they sit as part of a strategic review and help that business to look for cloud options? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, definitely. And what we do is we partner with companies too.
Yeah.
So there's cloud experts out there that can help you move your business to the cloud. There's partners out there, and one is a partner of ours called Missing Link. There's a few others. There's Data Free. There's quite a few out there. And I think what's important in IT today is that you collaborate with the right companies to give the right solution and the right outcome. So, we will help the organisation secure that cloud, but maybe getting that data migrated to the cloud, we'll bring the right company that does that day in, day out.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I've been learning. If I take it out of IT and I go into, say, our marketing side of our business, it's not one size fits all. I get lots of firms knock on the door and say, we're going to look after everything for you. I'm like, no, you're not. What's your strength? Like, what are you really, really good at? These guys are really good at cybersecurity, and that's what they're really good at. And I think that's a really good example of, like, we will make sure we've got a really good conduit with that other supplier. And that's fantastic. So talk to me about what your vision is. Obviously we know why you exist, because you're very passionate about this business and, being in business 17 years. But what does the future look like for you guys? Like, what is the next sort of, not too far into the future, but what's the next 3 years look like for you guys?
What's really important for us is to keep innovating in what we do. The day we stop is the day that content security is really not existent or falling behind. So we really need to stay in front of finding ways. How do we help our clients mitigate the risk for their business? And that's through technologies, but it's also through services. So one example is we're developing a penetration testing course, which having people to understand penetration testing is a really good thing. One is some people may want to get into that industry because it's a passion. They may be an engineer that they want to move into security, and they feel like ethical hacking is a great thing, and I want to do that. So that's good. Another thing too is that you have CIOs out there that they want to understand what a penetration tester does, because if you're doing that, you're actually understanding what a hacker does. And then if you understand how a hacker thinks, you can maybe help try and defend the way the hacker will try and penetrate your network. So it's giving you that knowledge of how maybe I should be looking at this or that. So
I always get worried when I walk through that part of your office. It's like, there's all the hackers, and I'm turn my phone off. Yep.
But they're great, right? Because the ethical hackers, right, they're really pushing the boundary. But they're doing it for the right reason too.
Absolutely.
They're doing it for the right reason to help organisations.
It's a good course. So if you guys are interested in ethical hacking, or someone, or you want to build that skill set into your business, these guys have got a great course. So in terms of that journey, and I think this is something I ask everybody, and it's probably a similar response to mine, so I'll be interested to hear what you're thinking. On that journey, when you turned 30, and if you think back to that point, what advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
So that's a good one, Kobe. You wish you could do that, right?
Yeah,
when you're back at that age.
Benefit of hindsight.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm pretty happy with a lot of stuff we've done. Obviously, there's always things you can do better. Probably, listen to a lot more people to get that mentorship, rather than trying to do everything yourself, because you know what it's like. You can do a lot of things wrong, and you learn the hard way. Sometimes learning the hard way is when you actually do learn about business and you correct it, and then you sort of know the right path. But I think, today I'm surrounding myself around good people, right? And people that are older than me, and people at the same age, but have really done good stuff as yourself, right? From our leadership meetings we've done. And you start to listen to people, because we all have the same challenges. And everyone has the same issues and problems to solve. So I think surrounding yourself with good people that understand, have been there, have done that, and people that are even older than us, it's fantastic, right? Because that way you can just make the right decisions.
Yeah, and I think if you use a football team on the paddock, whether it's the Socceroos, for example, we saw a great win this week. They've all got a position to play. and we're only one player in a team, you know, and I think that's something I'm certainly learning, is that as our business grows and as your business grows, you know, becomes more and more specialised, there's people that are better at stuff than you, and when you can afford to get those people, you get them in as quick as you can. And that's probably where I've probably made mistakes, that we could have scaled a lot faster ourselves if I had have maybe put the challenge to those people. They walked in and they said, yeah, I can help you with that problem and it's going to be 50 grand. And I went, oh, I can't afford that. So I just didn't do it. Instead of putting the challenge to them and saying, okay, that's excellent, it's going to cost 50 grand. Help me understand how I can afford that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, my thing has just been, no, not doing it. So don't have the money, not doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's a trend, right? With businesses that are growing and starting up, you don't have the cash, you don't have the money, and the fear of spending the money or don't having it stops you doing the right decision. But you know, as business grows, you are looking for the people that are passionate, the people that are, you know that they want to be in the field that you're in. And they want to drive and really help be part of the team to build something, you know, that we all enjoy doing. And I think when you find the right people, and sometimes you have to pay the right money, right? Because that's the way it is. Absolutely. The business will grow quicker.
This whole business improvement, whether it's ISO 27001, whether it's quality, safety, environment, whatever it is, it's a business plan, and these are the systems that we use to implement our business plan. Our business plan is don't get hacked. Yeah. Like, you know, and so then we have that system in place. So we're done. Nice. How's that?
That's good. Thanks, buddy. That's good.
Easy, eh?
I was nervous. So.